Good morning. We're into the series pretty good. I think this is around week 8, and I'm rounding kind of the home stretch of my sabbatical, but I love thinking about this video, meeting you where you're at today in your life before God brings us back together again. And today I'm going to be sharing out of Genesis 2, and you might think that's kind of a strange passage as one of your life passages, the most meaningful passage, except for there's so much in it. And I won't get to all of it. I could teach on this for weeks and weeks, but I love that this is a second story of human origins, told from a different perspective and for different reasons in a different chronology, right? It's in juxtaposition to the first, right? So there's something new that this story adds, another layer of our understanding. And here we find that it says, this is the count of the heavens and earth when they were created, and then God calls forth kind of shrubs and plants and streams, and then lastly, us, formed man from the dust of the ground. And it says he breathed into man the breath of life, and he became a living being. And I really love this picture of it's probably too simplistic to think, God playing with clay and then deciding to animate it. But there is something about God's animating spirit, breathing life into us. We've talked about this before. This is the same word where Jesus breathes in the Holy Spirit into his disciples. The same phrase as when God breathes on the dry bones and they become living beings in Ezekiel 37. There's something really beautiful about us deriving our life from God. It's one of the great mysteries, right? Even in science, as they're trying to discover, when you don't have God as a part of your story, how do we go from inorganic to organic compounds, right? How can we have kind of primordial ooze, and yet then suddenly there's life, single cell, all the way out into complex organisms. We can't figure that out. There's no mechanism that we can identify. Well, I believe it's because we need God as our animating force. All things are alive by God's power. Christ holds all things together. Our next breath is contingent on God. The sun shining is contingent on God. Photosynthesis in plants is contingent on God. In a world in which we largely ignore God, everything hangs on God. And I love that this passage reminds us that your life comes from God. And to turn to now God and be thankful for your life, and then to ask God to direct you in your life, because he's the one who's called you into being, gives you life, and puts you into his garden, as it were, right? This is why we pursue God. God, thank you for this life, and now show me how I'm supposed to live it today. Maybe that can be our prayer today. We can take time to just simply be thankful for the life he's given us. Outside of the aches and pains and heartaches, there should be a lot of joy to just being alive, and then to recognize the life giver directs us into the life that he gives us. And asking God today, thank you for this life, and then would you direct me to live as you'd want me to live today? I hope that's encouragement to you. Grace and peace.